Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hello.
Today we're stepping into a world conjured straight from classic literature. We're going to be digging into pages just packed with unforgettable characters, some really curious habits, and, well, plenty of unexpected turns.
It's quite a narrative, isn't it? It paints this really vivid picture of human experience, everything from, profound cruelty to genuine kindness, sometimes right next to each other.
Exactly. So our mission here, for you listening, is to navigate these detailed descriptions, pull out the parts that really hit hardest, and see what timeless insights they might offer about, well, people and their often pretty messy lives.
Think of us as your guides, basically. We've gone through the text, pinpointed the key scenes, the main players, and we're ready to sort of unpack them. We want to focus on what really resonates today.
Right. So settle in. Let's start exploring.
Okay, where better to start than the very beginning? That dramatic entrance into this world. David's birth scene. It throws us right into a world of, let's say, strong personalities and some rather nervous professionals.
Yeah, you've got poor Mr. Chillip, the doctor. He's clearly terrified of Miss Betsy Trotwood. The text even says it was considered almost a miracle that my aunt didn't shake him.
Right. Shake the words right out of him. What's fascinating is how fast the story sets up this sense of, well, high stakes and real eccentricity. Miss Betsy's personality, just that shake of her head making the doctor quail, it completely sets the tone for the kind of, larger-than-life people we're going to meet. It signals right away that maybe the normal rules don't quite apply here.
It definitely grabs your attention. And speaking of powerful presences, though shown very differently, well, let's talk about Peggotty. Her love for David is just fierce, almost primal, you could say.
Oh, absolutely. Her affection comes through in her actions, doesn't it? Often completely silent, but incredibly impactful.
Think about that scene when he's leaving. She makes this most extraordinary festoon of herself, just clinging to the cart.
Yeah.
Then she pulls him into the kitchen, coldly silent, just stuffing his pockets with cakes and a purse.
That quiet act, it says so much about her practical, deep-seated care for him. It's not flashy, but it's real.
But the image that really truly sticks with you is later. She bursts out of a hedge, climbs onto the cart, gives him this bone-crushing hug, shoves more cakes, another purse at him, still no words, and then just bolts. Runs away.
And the detail.
Yeah, the source mentioned she ran off without a solitary button on her gown.
That buttonless gown.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so poignant. It's like a physical symbol of her overflowing, unspoken grief and love. It really shows how some of the deepest emotions, they don't need words. They come out in these sort of desperate physical ways. And this kind of unconditional protective love, even if it's a bit, well, unconventional. It's a theme, right? And it's such a stark contrast to what David faces next.
Oh, definitely. That silent goodbye, the buttonless gown.
Yeah.
It makes that simple button he treasures later feel huge. It really highlights how powerful small things can be when they represent that kind of immense unspoken feeling. And yeah, the contrast couldn't be sharper when the Murdstones arrive.
No kidding. David's experience just shifts immediately into this cold control. He's kept away from his mother for 5 days. She kept her face another way.
Yeah, like she couldn't even look at him.
Right. And he's escorted like a young outlaw, even just for prayers.
And he notices things, even as a kid. He sees Mr. Murdstone's bandaged hand, that subtle hint of violence underneath, and his mother's explanation for Murdstone's harshness. It's tough to read.
It really is. This part gets into the mechanics of manipulation, doesn't it? Seen through a child's eyes, but with this chilling adult clarity looking back. His mother justifies Murdstone's strictness as solely for a certain person's benefit, meaning David.
Right.
Her view of herself as this weak, light, girlish creature, feeling thankful and submissive, it shows just how deep her psychological subjugation goes.
Her trying to convince herself that this firm, grave, serious man is right, even doubting her own heart. It's such a stark picture of how vulnerability can be twisted, how control isn't just physical, it's mental. It makes this dynamic feel depressingly relevant,
Absolutely. And then right after the solemnity, presumably his mother's death, Miss Murdstone delivers another blow. Gives Peggotty a month's notice. Just like that.
Removing his last bit of comfort. Peggotty tells them they have to part. It's just swift, calculated cruelty. Now, contrast that with the quiet reliability of Mr. Barkis.
Ah, Barkis, yes. He offers a very different kind of steadfastness. His interactions with David are, well, understated, but they're consistent.
Remember the secret sign he makes?
Yeah.
And just repeating simply, "It was all right," and that famous line, "Barkis was willin'."
His quiet persistence, especially his affection for Peggotty, it acts like a sort of grounding presence in the middle of all the turmoil David's going through.
And the 9 pence he gives David, such a small amount. But it becomes incredibly significant later when David is forced out into the world alone.
And this is where the story really throws David and us into the harsh realities of the adult world. Seen through his eyes, he's trying to sell his few things and that disagreeable business with Mr. Dollaby over the waistcoat.
Yeah, Dollaby offering only 9 pence, claiming any more would rob my family, after David hoped for double that. It just shows the vulnerability of someone poor and how some people will just take advantage.
And that scene with the old man buying the jacket is even rougher.
Oh, God, yeah.
Screaming, "Oh, my liver, get out of the shop! Oh, my lungs, get out of the shop!" Just because David asked for money instead of swapping goods, it's this raw, unsettling interaction you face when you have nothing, totally dependent on others' whims. The sheer desperation for that 9 pence. It really hits home.
From that kind of environment, David then finds himself, surprisingly, back with Miss Betsy Trotwood. She is certainly
unconventional.
That's putting it mildly.
But if we look at the bigger picture, Miss Betsy offers a totally different model of care compared to the Murdstones, right? Her eccentricities are, well, numerous. Sitting on her trunk like it's property.
Her strict rules for tea, toast cut into strips, specific timing.
Exactly. But she also took in her brother, Mr. Dick, when everyone else thought he needed locking up, famously saying he was a great deal more sane than you are.
She's quirky, absolutely. But when she asks David about being firm and self-reliant, it shows a genuine interest in his character, not trying to break him like the Murdstones. This unconventional kindness, accepting Mr. Dick. It's a powerful statement about looking past what society thinks.
And then there's Agnes Wickfield, a totally different kind of positive influence. David talks about her with such calm reverence, a modest, orderly, placid manner, a beautiful, calm voice.
She just brings this sense of peace, doesn't she? Playing dominoes, looking at his books, showing him how to learn. David feeling that there are goodness, peace, and truth wherever Agnes is. That says it all, really.
So what's that tell us? Agnes represents this quiet, steady strength. She's like an oasis of calm in all the emotional chaos David's known. Her support is intellectual, emotional, offered without any drama. It really highlights the value of just simple, unwavering decency.
Okay, so moving into the academic world at Dr. Strong's, we meet another set of pretty memorable characters. Dr. Strong himself, totally absorbed in his massive dictionary project.
Right, the one his head boy, Adams, calculated would take, 1,649 years.
Yeah, which is just, wow.
That calculation itself is fascinating. It captures a certain kind of academic dedication, maybe bordering on the impractical, but committed nonetheless.
And then you've got Mrs. Markleham, nicknamed the Old Soldier. The text makes it pretty clear her focus is entirely on, well, worldly gain.
Having arranged her daughter Annie's marriage to the much older doctor because she thought he represented the family's wisdom and station, and I may say the means.
It's a classic study in why people get married, isn't it? The doctor's genuine affection versus Mrs. Markleham's cold calculation for status and money. The old soldier's scheming. It's a pretty cynical view of relationships as just transactions.
Definitely. Prioritizing status over connection, or even her daughter's happiness, it's a timeless example of how outside pressures can really warp personal choices.
Such a stark contrast to the quiet affection we saw with, say, Barkis and Peggotty, or Agnes's steadfastness. And then, the Macabres. Utterly chaotic, but you kind of love them anyway.
Mr. Micawber is just a masterclass in theatrical ups and downs, isn't he? So convivial one minute.
Right.
Then plunging into despair the next, declaring the die is cast, all is over, whenever money troubles hit. Which seems to be, constantly.
And Mrs. Micawber, bless her heart, with this absolutely unwavering faith in him, always quoting her father's supposed opinion that her grasp of a subject is inferior to none.
Even while they're perpetually waiting for something to turn up.
Yeah. Their struggles are often funny, but there's something underneath, isn't there? About relentless optimism against overwhelming jet, this shared belief that somehow things will just magically fix themselves.
And their later plan to emigrate, with Micawber dreaming of being Caesar of his own fortunes, it just adds another layer to their persistent, maybe misguided hope.
Okay, switching gears to younger feelings, we meet Doris Benlow and her dog, Jip. David is just instantly smitten.
Doris presented with this real, charming immaturity. Her dog is central, isn't it? She sees Miss Murdstone as a protector she doesn't want.
Prefers Jip.
Right. And David's reaction when she calls Jip, my pet, oh, if they had only been to me. It just perfectly captures that innocent, maybe slightly misdirected teenage yearning.
It highlights her childishness, which appeals to David at first, but it also suggests, well, a certain fragility.
Yeah, she seems pretty ill-equipped for adult life, really, represented by her reliance on the dog and her, let's say, limited domestic skills. A huge contrast to someone like Agnes.
Then there's Traddles. Good old Traddles, the honest striver. Mr. Waterbrook just dismisses him, right? Calls him nobody's enemy but his own, unlikely to ever be worth 500 pounds.
Defining worth purely by money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Traddles has real talent writing griefs, and he's just fundamentally decent.
Which raises that question again. How does society measure success? Waterbrook's comment just shows this materialistic view, totally ignoring Traddles' integrity, his work ethic, his quiet resilience.
Traddles is always struggling, always getting knocked down, but he just keeps plugging away. He gets excited about simple things, like the planned-upon stuff with Peggotty. He embodies this quiet persistence and honesty that really stands out against the schemers.
He represents the value of character over, status or quick cash.
Okay, now, for a moment, that completely flips how we see a character who seems kind of minor. Miss Melcher.
Yes. Initially, she's just this comical figure pinching David's cheek saying gammon and spinach.
But her later distress, her revelation, it's intense. She reveals Steerforth's appalling actions towards little Emily, how his man Litimer manipulated her, Miss Melcher.
And how she accidentally helped them connect by delivering a letter, playing this unintentional part in Emily's ruin.
What's so fascinating is how appearances can be just completely wrong. Miss Melcher, the comic relief, is carrying this huge weight of guilt.
It shows how even people who mean well can be manipulated into enabling harm, and how complex people are. Someone can be funny and also deeply affected by tragedy. It adds so much depth to her character.
And it underlines the ripple effects of Steerforth's selfishness.
Absolutely. It underscores that even seemingly minor characters can have these crucial roles and hidden depths. Steerforth's actions touch so many lives.
And then there's the incredibly heart-wrenching journey of Mr. Peggotty, searching relentlessly for his niece Emily. His love is just unwavering, his forgiveness immediate.
His reaction when he finds her is just so moving. His simple cry, "Uncle," her recognizing him, and his instant response, offering forgiveness and to take you home, it captures the absolute essence of unconditional love.
Here's where it gets really powerful. Martha's intervention. Saving Emily from that black pit of ruin, calling her from beside her open grave, and Mr. Peggotty's profound gratitude to Martha. It's just overwhelming compassion.
And his decision.
Yes, leaving the boathouse exactly as it was, hoping it might seem to tempt her to draw nigher to it if she ever came back. Such a potent symbol of his enduring hope, his readiness to welcome her back no matter what.
That image of the empty boat just waiting, it perfectly encapsulates the depth of his love and forgiveness. Unforgettable.
But this story isn't without real deep loss. We see it with Dora's illness and death, and that poignant conversation she has with Aunt Betsy, asking her and David to go away together.
A very sad end, but perhaps narratively it felt necessary for a character portrayed as so inherently fragile, maybe unable to really cope with adulthood.
And David's time traveling afterwards, marked by brooding sorrow and an undisciplined heart. It shows the impact of that loss and the need for some self-discovery after such intense emotion. He's processing grief.
Yeah, it feels like a necessary period of reflection, of maturing before he can really move on.
Which brings us to the confrontation with Uriah Heep. What a truly chilling figure. That dramatic scene where Miss Betsy, Agnes, Micawber, and Traddles finally confront him.
Uriah's behavior in that scene, Miss Betsy describes it so vividly as galvanic, serpentined, and corkscrewed.
And Miss Betsy's response is just perfect. If you're an eel, sir, conduct yourself like one. If you're a man, control your limbs, sir. Good God, I am not going to be serpentined and corkscrewed out of my senses.
She sees right through his fake humbleness.
Right through the physical signs of his deceit and his threats, telling Miss Betsy he'll stop your husband shorter, threatening to ruin him, promising Micawber he'll be crushed. They reveal all the venom under that facade. It's terrifying seeing a cornered manipulator lash out.
And Micawber, even getting arrested because of Heep, finds this bizarre joy in filling out stamps afterwards. Only Micawber could react like that.
It's classic Micawber, isn't it? Highlighting his unique brand of resilience, finding some weird satisfaction even in the bureaucracy after trouble, blending despair with this odd enthusiasm.
So after all this, where do these characters end up? We see various resolutions. Mr. Peggotty finds Emily. They emigrate to Australia with Mrs. Dummage,
Who, finding purpose in caring for Emily, is no longer lone and lorn. A nice touch. And Micawber, amazingly, actually does find his fortune in Australia. Becomes a principal magistrate, pays off every shilling.
The man who always waited for something to turn up finally makes something turn up, becomes Caesar of his own fortunes.
Maybe it's perseverance, maybe a fresh start, maybe a place where his particular talents for making grand pronouncements actually worked.
Could be. Meanwhile, Dr. Strong, years later, is still plugging away at his dictionary. That unwavering, if incredibly slow, dedication.
And the old soldier, Mrs. Markleham, she finds herself on a reduced footing, her influence gone, suggests that schemes based only on gain don't always last.
And Miss Betsy, reflecting on her own past marriage mistakes, keeps her strong, sometimes tough relationship with David. Her honesty about her past shows real growth.
And Traddles, written off by Waterbrook, remember? He achieves success in his career, finds happiness with Sophie, proving that quiet diligence and integrity can lead to fulfillment, even if it doesn't look like conventional wealth. And finally, let's circle back to Agnes. David sees her face linked with serenity and happiness, like stained glass, a constant source of peace.
Which brings up that question again, about the different ways strength and support show up in life. Agnes's influence isn't loud or flashy, it's quiet, steady, profound.
David recalls her saying she would never take the step he dreaded, likely marrying Heap. But it also subtly suggests her steadfast presence, maybe her unspoken feelings for David, without ever burdening him.
Her calm, unwavering presence is shown as this crucial, reliable foundation in David's life. Such a contrast to the drama elsewhere. She embodies a different kind of strength, quiet integrity, devoted support.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've journeyed through this world filled with characters who feel intensely real, even in this somewhat heightened reality. We've seen the awful impact of cruelty from people like the Murdstones and Heap.
Witness that profound, unconditional love from Peggotty and Mr. Peggotty. The chaotic resilience of the Micawbers, the steadfast decency of Traddles.
The quiet strength of Agnes, and the surprising depths in characters like Miss Moucher.
This exploration really does pull out more than just the plot points, doesn't it? It highlights these enduring truths about human nature. The capacity for great harm, yes, but also the power of love and forgiveness to heal. The resilience needed to get through hardship.
And the quiet, often overlooked strength of people who live with integrity and offer that unwavering support.
It really makes you think about appearances, doesn't it? Characters who seem simple turn out complex, while those who look respectable hide darkness.
Totally. The story constantly pushes you to look past the surface, doesn't it? To question first impressions, outward status, even quirky habits, and understand that real character shows up in actions, especially under pressure or in moments of kindness.
Absolutely. So maybe something to think about as you go about your day. How often do you judge people based on those first impressions or status or even their odd habits?
What does this story teach you about just how complex people are and how necessary, though difficult, it is to look deeper? How much are we swayed by appearances, and what might we be missing?
Some food for thought. Until our next deep dive, exploring the layers of knowledge waiting for us.